Then as the city roars, tune in loud, turn up some more. Cincinnati show, it's time to play. Sports with strawberry ice today. 5:30 sharp, don't be late. CTV, the sports awaits. Strawberry ice, he's on the mic, energy, it's pure delight. Every touchdown, every goal. Feel the pulse, it's in your soul. Cincinnati heartbeats strong. Strawberry ice will lead the throng. Every touchdown, every goal. Feel the pulse, it's in your soul. Cincinnati heartbeats strong. Strawberry ice will lead the throng. Feel the crowd, it's electric now. Shouting loud, they all know how. The CTV got what we crave. Sports with ice, it's waves and waves. Tigers strike and Bengals roar. Every game we want some more. Tune it in and feel the thrill. Strawberry ice, he's giving chills. 5:30 sharp, don't be late. CTV, the sports awaits. Strawberry ice, he's on the mic, energy, it's pure delight.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the show. This is Sports with Strawberry Ice. I'm your host, the Iceman, Jeff Turnipole, and as always, I bring you sports from a West Side point of view right here in the great city of Cincinnati, Ohio. And as always, I'm coming to you live from the Ice Cave, and the Ice Cave is brought to you by Priority Lawn and Landscaping. It's getting nice and sunny out there. The grass is starting to grow. You need your lawn cut. You don't want to do it? Give Priority Lawn and Landscaping a call. You got flower beds that need to be cleaned out, shrubs need to be planted, retainer wall needs to be put in, anything lawn or landscaping. Think Priority Lawn and Landscaping. You can give them a call at 513-430-6114. That's 513-430-6114. You can also follow them on Facebook. And when you do, tell them I sent you. What's up to everybody in the chat? We got to see. Roll, scroll back up. You guys are blowing it up. I love it. Strangers in there. Paul's in there. Robert's in there. Brad's in there. Tony Blazin's in there. Jerome. Matt's in there. Vanguard's in there. Darth. What's up there? My boy Darth. Darth's in there. What's going on? Nick's in there. Jeremy Silent. What's up? Holmes. I think I said, I think it's everybody. All right, boys and girls, it's a great day to be a Bengals fan because Uno and I got 5 on TR. Bengals for the next 4 years. Signed, sealed, and delivered. Now we just need Bengal Rick to be right. And Trey Hendrickson is next. And then we go sign a guard, and we nail the draft. Sound like a plan? All right. Well, let's get to my guests this afternoon, because we are going to talk T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, the Bengals offense, but we're going to talk draft because we got to hit this draft big time. So let's get to my former seat neighbor, one of my best friends in the world. He's none other than Dale Altman. What's up, Dale?
What's up, buddy? Who dat? Who dat?
Who they think will beat them Bengals? Ooh, buddy! I'm a little excited.
Let's go.
I'm a little excited. All right, let's get to first time forever. Now, I've always wanted to have a relationship with a professor, but now I actually do. It's kind of cool. And we have the draft professor on the first time on my show, so I'm privileged to have Jim, the draft professor. What's up, Jim?
Hey, it's good to see you.
What's going on, man? Are you ready to talk some draft here? Some defensive line, some offensive line, so the Bengals can nail this draft?
I'm ready to talk about whatever. I know that there's probably some more important Bengals news. It's taking priority.
We got the two of the highest paid wide receivers in football with the Bengals and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. One thing, did you guys watch the press conference? I kind of liked it where T said, and Jamar backed him up. It's not wide receiver 2, it's 1A. And he's like, I just want to be known for, the Bengals respecting me and I'm a good player. And that's that's what I've always said. I was like, T really ain't a 2. He's a 1. I mean, Jim, you're a Bills fan. He'd be a 1 on Buffalo's team if he was a wide receiver for you guys. I mean, he's a hell of a wide receiver. Let's just talk about, Jim, what's your thoughts on uno ante and this monumental contract that they both signed.
You have to take care of your players.
Yeah.
Right? If you draft them, you wouldn't, if you let them go, you wouldn't get the comp pick for another year.
Right.
So unless you already have somebody in line to replace them, your offense goes through them. So
what's the chances of you drafted a T. Higgins again?
Especially with a 3rd-round comp pick, which is basically a 4th-round pick, Exactly. And you did that with Jermaine Burton last year in the 3rd round, and you may get nothing out of him. So
exactly. So, Dale, how excited are you? I am very, very excited.
I'm excited. It was most exciting.
Draft.
It was most exciting to see how happy T was, right? Yes. Because he's been kind of hoping for a contract now for basically 3 years.
Yeah.
And last year having the tag, now being tagged again before this got done, I'm sure there was a lot of frustration and not knowing where he's going to put a fish tank in his wall.
He's got
what house, what city is he going to be in, because that's what he said. That's going to be his big thing. He's going to put a fish tank in his wall. Yep. He's going to have a whole fish tank wall. That's what he wants with his money. So, hey, he's got plenty of it to do whatever he wants.
He can do whatever the hell he wants.
But he was excited. He talked about growing up a Bengals fan. He talked about A.J. Green, congratulating him after, who was his favorite player growing up. So it's just cool to keep a guy like that here. And you could tell he's happy to be here. Jamar's happy to have him back. Joe will be happy to have both of those guys happy.
Right.
And you keep that offense humming, and you just hope, you can build up that defense a little bit, because right now you still need to bring Trey back, and you got to nail the draft. I mean, I think that's well known by anybody, and that should be any team, right? If you don't hit in the draft, it's going to set you back. Like you can, and it's like if you hit in 2 or 3 drafts, when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, they had hit on 2 or 3 drafts in a row, and that's when they went to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
The Eagles, if you look at their last few drafts, they've nailed their first few rounds. What did they just do? They just won a Super Bowl. The Chiefs, to get back there and win it, the last couple of years before that, they nailed that draft with McDuffie and those guys. So you got to nail your drafts, and that's always very important. But then when you start having to pay these guys their 2nd contracts or 3rd contracts, maybe for Trey, you got to hit even more in the draft.
Right, exactly. And that brings you to the Bengals draft, where this is going to be like last year. I thought it was all going to be all trenches. This year's going to be trenches. I mean, you could throw a cornerback or a safety in there, but to me, it's I want to, like Dale, you me talking about, I want to sign at least 1 guard for agency. I would love 2. Yeah, you have to. I love 2, but like me and Jim were talking off the air, the Bengals are probably going to have to draft an offensive lineman too. That hopefully whoever they get can at least be ready to play in 2026. On your offensive line, and they have not hit that. I mean, they got Mims last year. That's the first offensive lineman it's first year. We'll see what he does this year. I think he's going to be fine. But we haven't hit on a draft offensive lineman. Hell, Willie Anderson? I can't even remember.
I mean, Clint Bowling, 4th round, I mean, we had Zeitler, when we got Zeitler.
But how long ago was that?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Zeitler's been in the league for 43 years now. So if I'm mentioning him.
Right.
Do you blame the scouting or do you blame the GM?
Probably a good combination, but I don't know. There's something with, and that it worries me with Duke still, because the athleticism is a big thing. And I know I would just say, and I think Tyler Booker will still be in the conversation, and people are like, guys, no, his athleticism. We need more athletic guys. I'm like, I get it. I said, I'm just saying they've shown an unwillingness to typically go with more athleticism. We hope that's changing. I mean, Mims is a great athlete. Matt Lee, they got in the 7th round, a great athlete. I just hope it changes. I don't know exactly who's to blame, but
it hasn't worked. Whoever, I hope they fix it. Then I'm kind of hoping they're starting to change, because just with going back to these contracts, with them guaranteeing Jamar and T both the 2nd year, that's something they never did except for Joe. Now they changed that. Maybe they haven't added any more scouts or anything, but maybe they'll change their philosophy of drafting, because and the thing is like they hit, and Robert's right, they hit Mims. They hit on Mims. It's just the rest of the draft. They got to make sure they hit on those. Now, Chris Jenkins, Michaela Jackson, I like what I saw out of them, but we need more out of them this year. So this year, to me, I've said this a million times, I really want Nolan. I would love to see Nolan, a 3-tech right next to TJ Slayton, and then go get an edge in the 2nd round. But if that offensive line guard is there in the 2nd round, you can't pass them up. So that's where this draft to me is very defensive side, because Danny Jeremiah told AC on Anthony Kazin's on our podcast Saturday night that there's 24 starters, in his opinion, in this draft. And the year before that, on defensive side. And last year, there was 12 starters on defensive side. So there's a lot of defensive starters in Danny Jeremiah's opinion in this draft. Jim, do you agree with that? This is a pretty good draft-heavy draft for defensive.
Okay, I got to interrupt 1 minute. Thanks for letting me know, Crip. I had no idea we hit 2,000. Thanks, buddy. You broke news to me.
Woohoo! Yeah! Bengals are in 2,000! Hey!
But sorry.
That's
back
awesome.
to Jim.
No.
Do you agree with all that?
Yeah, like this is definitely a good defensive draft, and I would also say this is a draft where I guess the right way to say it is it's good, but it's not good for your fantasy football team.
Right.
This isn't the draft where you're going to be seeing wide receivers go like last year. I think 18 or 19 went in the top 100.
Right.
This year, we're going to see a little bit more than half that, but I think it's going to be closer to like 12 than it will be 18. But if you look at from a line standpoint, while if you need a tackle, this is not your draft, but interior offensive line, I think this draft goes 4 rounds deep.
Yeah, make me feel better about the offensive line, because I've been hearing that it's not that great as far as offensive linemen go. Now you're saying tackles is not, but the interior it might be.
So I think the issue would be there's a lot of guys that they're a tackle, but let them fail inside.
Right.
Or fail at tackle, push them inside. And there's, you can say that about Will Campbell.
Yeah,
you
Banks,
can say that
JD.
about Jonas Savanea, Marcus Bowe.
Ursery, some people think same thing with him. I mean, it's just a bunch of them.
Yeah. So we actually did a podcast. This is actually pretty funny. So if any Bengals fans listening, if you know Parker Blake, Parker is somebody that podcasts with me once a week.
He's been on both our shows before.
So Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern. But Parker was challenged with one other gentleman. His name is Drew. Find the tackles, and we're only going to podcast, but you're not allowed to use the word guard. And it was actually one of our better shows. I really liked it. I mean, and they had to dig. But if you dig, you're going to find some guys in rounds 4 and 5 that hit all of the measurables for tackles. You just need to give them a little bit more time.
So you're saying we could wait till rounds 4 or 5 to get if we get the right guy at guard, that he could be a potential future starter for us?
Oh, I definitely think so. So I think Cincinnati natives will know Luke Kandra.
Yeah, he grew up like 2 minutes from me. Yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah, so we podcasted on Luke Kandra in November, and his family was retweeting the podcast while we were on the podcast. It was actually one of the coolest things.
That's awesome.
So I definitely want to give a shout out to Luke Kandra and his family, because
and if you guys want to come on my show, just hit me up or just walk down the street, because I'm not that far away.
And I mean, so players do that. And I also want to give a shout out to Pooh Paul. His father is a very passionate football fan. So if you post a mock draft with Pooh Paul's name on it, there's a good chance his dad is going to find it on X. It's amazing. But we interviewed Pooh Paul. I had Pooh Paul live on my show, whether that was last week or the week before. It's all fuzzy now. But like, it's awesome being able to interact not just with fans, but also with players and their agents and stuff like that. So Draft Professor is a lot of fun.
All right, let me get to try to. We have 220 people right now. We try to get to some of these comments here. Dustin, who always brings great comments here. So Lou had heavy say into drafting Hill and Zach Carter. I think sometimes giving coaches too much input can somewhat be costly. Coaches aren't always great drafting. Cough, Bill Belichick. But I mean, one thing as being a Bengals coach, you got to be part of the draft, because I don't have that many scouts. So,
which is why I'd love to see him hire more scouts,
right,
and not put it as much on the coaches. I think it's great that the coaches have a say.
Yes,
but
not
these scouts that are doing it year round and the coaches are doing 800 other things throughout the season that they have a month or two to focus in on it. That's people that's been doing it year round and keeping track of some of these guys for 2 and 3 years. So that's why that's one of the things I always bring up about what the Bengals could do better is hire more scouts.
Yeah, like Draft Professor, we have 16 people to podcast once a week, and that's
how many
bigger
Bengals
than the Bengals scouting department.
That's maybe the Bengals scouting department has.
Keith asked about trading down, and that's something I've touched on. And it's I think a lot of teams would love to trade down in this draft because it's such an abundance of guys in those middle rounds that you might have a guy 15th on your board that's 75th on somebody else's board. So with knowing that, if you can trade down from 17 to mid 20s or somewhere and pick up an extra 3rd round pick, of course you want to do that. I just don't know how many teams will be willing to do the opposite, which is trade up to go get a guy.
So I think the Bengals might be too high for some of the trade ups. So generally, like if you think of last year's draft, there were a couple of trades in the top 20. I think Denver traded up one spot to get Knicks, didn't they?
Not
like, but
sure on
I think that was about the only trade on draft day. But then if you look at the last 4 picks, they changed hands a few times, right? Because Carolina traded up, KC traded up.
San Fran, did San Fran trade up in to get, or was they already there?
They were already there because they were an NFC championship team.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm pointing that out is if you're trading up from early round 2 into the back of round 1, it'll cost you a 4th round pick. And I think a lot of GMs will give up the day 3 pick to move up. But
yeah, especially to get the 5th year option. That's why you see it at the back end of the 1st round. These teams like having that 5th year option control.
And it's really weird for teams to use that logic because the salary difference of the franchise tag and the 5th year option, the only position that's different significantly is quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Meaning a 5th year option on Xavier Legette. Really, like, what was going to be the difference of that contract by 3 spots?
And
if the player doesn't pan out, you don't even want him the 5th year.
Right. Yeah. Nothing to worry about.
But I mean, I think because you see it every year, right? You see teams do it. But I agree with you. It would make more sense when you're trading up like the Ravens did for Lamar Jackson because it's quarterback.
Right. Or the Chiefs did for good.
If you're trading up for a quarterback, you pay a king's ransom, and that's okay. And the key there is you trade up for a quarterback. I love seeing fans say, let's trade down and get Jackson Dart. Look, if you have to trade down to get your guy, he's not your guy.
He's got traded.
Right?
Makes sense.
The whole premise of trading up is you're going up to get your guy.
Right.
And so anyway, so going back to like trading up, there's probably going to be a run on tackles at the end of round 1. Because look at the teams at the top of round 2. The Giants, the Patriots specifically need a tackle.
So do you think that would change and make the Bengals draft well, you said tackles, right?
Yeah, like offensive tackles.
Oh, okay.
Because those teams aren't going to take it with their first pick at like 3 and 4 because they're going to be in the conversations for a quarterback or an Abdul Carter or a Travis Hunter.
So would that change the Bengals thinking and taking a tackle that could be a guard at 17, or do you think they're probably sticking with defense there?
Well, I think where the Bengals pick, it's a sweet spot for defense.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I think guard the earliest for me, and you guys are draft extras, would be 2nd round. And listening to you, Jim, it might be farther down than that.
I think if you're happy with a player. Like, now I got to remember. Is it Georgia that is too Fairchild? There we go.
Yeah, I was going to say Tate Ratledge maybe in the 2nd. A lot of people want him for the Bengals to pair him back up with Mims.
Right.
But they also have Fairchild who's played left guard.
Right. So, like, if you think, like, if you're okay with a Dylan Fairchild or a Luke Kandra, where they're probably not starting for you until 2026, are you okay with that? Then you can probably get them in round 4.
Yeah, and I can say a lot of this fan base is not going to be super comfortable with that because that means you're rolling out Volson or Ford, whoever wins the job.
I agree.
And that's assuming you sign one prior to this. If you go into the draft and you haven't signed one, I don't know how in the world you could not take one in at least the second round. Yeah, at least.
Well, I agree with what Paul said. We need to sign at least 2 guards, which I've said.
Well, yeah, I would love it. I don't
think they're going to. Street Freisner. And the thing, I want to ask you guys something. We've been talking about Tevin Jenkins. Well, he's went to Seattle and
maybe they've not. I haven't seen anything that said he was supposed to go there, but there's been no official him on the visit list. So I'm curious to see the visit list today because he wasn't on it yesterday.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that makes a little more sense because I'm like, I haven't really heard anything. That's I'm like, is there something else? Is there something still wrong with his back?
They're also bringing in who was the guy for the Dolphins that was a guard. Oh, he's free agent. Dylan Radunes. It might have been Tennessee. I can't remember if he was with Tennessee or Miami. It might have been Tennessee for him. I think the other guy, Miami guy, is a different guy. Eichenberg's who I was thinking, but that's not who they're bringing in. It's Tennessee guy, Dylan Radunes. They're bringing him in for a visit tonight or tomorrow. Okay. So Seattle's bringing him in. They brought another guy in yesterday that also wasn't Jenkins. So I don't know if they're just out on. I don't know if Jenkins wanting because we know there's maybe some issues with the back, and that was coming into the draft.
He had that draft too.
But he's played decent. He's never put it together a whole season, but he's still got quite a few snaps. Scherf's same thing. Before he was in Jacksonville, he was hurt all the time.
Jacksonville, he was fine though. So
so Jenkins could hit that, but I don't know what his issues are. But it could also be money. This could be a guy who's overvaluing himself on the market and is saying, "I still want $40 million," and teams are going, "Buddy, that money is long gone in free agency."
Yeah, exactly. We're starting week 2 here. All right, let me get a couple more of these questions here. If Kenny G is there at 17, would love to see him back with Chris Jenkins. What you guys think?
Kenneth Grant.
Yeah, I don't think it's happening anymore.
I
was big on Kenneth Grant, but once they got Slayton, I'm just like, I think it'll be Slayton and McKinley at that spot, and they need more pass rush and I think Grant has upside there, but you're getting an elite run defender. But that's when you go and your first move in free agency is TJ Slayton, who is a run defender, not a pass rusher.
Yes.
That tells me you're probably not also spending your first round pick on Kenneth Grant.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And there's a lot of good pass rushing 3 techs that you can get as a role player rounds 3 and 4. I know like Aeneas Peebles might be in that spot, or Omar Norman Lott from Tennessee.
Does he have I heard something about a knee. Is it maybe a knee issue that came up at the combine? I don't know if you had heard any more on that, because I really like Norman Lott, even though, he's not a very good run defender, a lot of missed tackles, but he can rush the passer, which is what we need.
Yep.
Yeah. Go get that.
So I think I have heard the same injury concerns. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
But again, that would be why a possible top 75 player falls to
day 3, 4th round or something. Yeah.
Right. So I actually think, like, for some of the Bengals' needs, like if you're looking for a pass rushing interior and an interior offensive line, I think round 4 is a good sweet spot. I'm looking at like Emory Jones, Clay Webb, Dylan Fairchild, Jackson Slater, Logan Brown would just be some names that you're probably going to be able to get them in rounds 4 or 5. Not all of them will be there, but more than one of them will.
Well, like I said, we only got 6 picks. We need to at least hit on 3 of them. 3 of them. One of them's got to be a starter for us now, I think, either interior or edge. And the other one's got to be rotation. We got to hit on 3 of these guys, at least.
You should be able to find undrafted free agent guards. Right? Like that is a legit strategy to team building.
Right.
Especially with Buffalo, I see a trend where they'll bring in an offensive lineman. He stays on the practice squad for a year, and then he makes the roster the next year.
Same thing happened with Jackson Kirkland then he got hurt, unfortunately, but he had made the 53 after a year on the practice squad.
That's that's what they like. And I'm going by what Trag said. Trag said they like him a lot. So.
Yeah, because they did bring him back on it, this year too. So, I mean, there's guys like that the Bengals have, but I don't know. I think they need more, and maybe even earlier. I don't know. I would feel a lot better about the whole situation if they went out and they signed up Brandon Scherf, somebody like that. That's like, okay, he's done it in the NFL, and he still had over a 70 pass blocking grade per PFF last year. So you at least give me that guy for now. I know, Jeff, The greedy part of me also
Want
wants
two.
two, but I'm saying, can I?
Yeah.
You got to get one before you can get two. So
I agree.
Get one?
I agree with you. I agree with you. All right, Christopher here. He says, thoughts on the Wisconsin tackle, Jack Nelson.
His position is mislabeled.
Okay.
He's a guard.
You think so? He's tall, man. I don't always love the guys that are that tall because he's what, over 6'7", probably 6'7".
He would be a tall guard, but I don't know that you would want him at tackle.
Yeah.
At the next level. But okay, if you want to, so if we say you try him at tackle and you fail inside, he might fail inside after 3 days of camp, as opposed to somebody else that you might wait till a couple of preseason games to figure it out.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But that's
another
my
guy
opinion.
too that we've been talking about a little bit on our show has been Anthony Belton, because I think he's another big guy that will move inside. Big, massive guy. And also when you get a guy like that, and it's probably like, no, you're going to be a guard in the NFL. But if injuries happen, this guy has played a lot of football at NC State at tackle. So I always think that's good when you can get a guy like that. But I do think that's a guy too. Maybe he might even be a third round type of guy. I don't know that he makes it to day 3, to be honest.
All right, got a $5 super chat from Dustin Croft. Appreciate it. Going to be interesting to see Al Gold's evaluation of the secondary. He likes corners on islands. If he can't get that system, we'll need to change. Which Dustin brought this up on yesterday's show. And I'll ask Jim. I ask your opinion on this. I said this before. I will never say we don't draft a corner. At just as much need as we have on this defensive line, in my opinion, if CTB bounces back, which I think he will, and we got DJ Turner and Dax Hill could be inside or out, however you want to do either one of them. Probably Dax on the inside. I think we'll be okay if we get more consistent pressure. I mean, I'm not saying don't draft a corner.
But first round, you're talking even pick 17, right?
Yes, pick 17. I mean, later on, 5th, 6th,
right. Yeah.
Later.
So this is not the year to need a corner.
And
so
what do you think of the Bengals cornerback room in general? Is it? I'm pretty happy with it, to be honest. If you get more pressure, I think they'd look a lot better. Because they're athletic, fast, and
I think Ryan Sparks, among others, has explained to me that the Cincinnati Bengals have invested a lot of draft capital into their corner room.
They have.
So anytime I've mocked a corner to the Bengals, I get feedback on Twitter.
Yeah.
But again, it's coming from Ryan. So if we have to take Ryan's advice with a grain of salt, then we take it with a grain of salt.
Well, if he's talking Harold Fannin, you do.
Yeah. That slander has happened. Ryan has been on my podcast twice. He's active in the chat probably 3-4 times a week. So I appreciate Ryan. If Ryan is listening, I'm saying everything with a lot of respect. But,
with all due respect, now you can say whatever you want.
Yeah,
I'm not saying the same thing, Dale. All due respect.
But anyway, like I think a story that's not being told is this is a weak corner class. And what makes it even weaker is 3 or 4 of the top 6 guys have significant injury concerns. Significant.
Right.
So if you need a corner, get it quickly, because by the time I think you get to the end of round 4, there won't be many left. So, for example, Buffalo needs a corner. Okay. Rasul Douglas left as a free agent. So we have a starting cornerback spot that has not been filled in free agency. And there are not a lot of good corners in free agency. Overall, this was not really a good free agent class.
Not really.
But anyways, if you look at the draft board, like there might be 7 or 8 corners that would go in the top 64. And that would be below historical averages. The average number of corners that go in the top 100 is 12. And depending upon what draft podcast you watch, like I'd be curious. I think there's only going to be 10. I'd be curious how many corners Dale has in his top 100. But I'm confident that it's under 12.
Hold on a second. Christopher wants to know what's the health of Benjamin Morris and Will Johnson.
Yeah. Morrison, I would punt on. Like, I mean, I don't have access to the medical.
But a hip is scary for anybody, let alone a corner, because more than any position.
Ken says here, Jeff Mabuka, then corner. Mabuka is
Andrew Makuba from Texas,
Texas.
the safety. Very good cover safety. He's played some slot corner. He was at Clemson before this season when he went to Texas.
This is actually a really good safety class, I think. At least one of the guys that podcast with me has, I believe it was 8 safeties in his top 100.
Wow.
Which was crazy a lot, but I think most people have at least 6, which is, again, ahead of historical averages.
What about the kid from Notre Dame? Because everybody keeps mocking him to us.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Watts, and they think Golden's going to love him. And,
right.
I like him. What are your thoughts on Watts, Jim?
Well, I am very curious if he goes before the Bengals' second-round pick. I would say the Bengals' round 2 pick is that's how far he would drop. I would have a hard time thinking that there would be a player that would make the Bengals better there in round 2.
And that's the thing for me. If he's there, I would not be shocked if the Bengals draft him, to be honest.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked at all.
I think it'd be interesting if both him and Ratledge are there, especially right now. Let's just say, since right now they don't have really either starting guard spot locked down, and Ratledge is there, the way he tested and the familiarity with Mims, I think that they would be all over Ratledge, but I think Golden would also love Watts. So that would be a fascinating scenario to me to see which way they went if it was those 2 players.
For me, I'm going guard just because we need a guard bad. I mean, even if we sign one, I would go with Ratledge at 49 if I was drafting, but I'm not.
But I don't think Watts falls that far.
Well, that's depressing, Jim. God.
I mean, from a positional value, I think the reason why Watts may be there is that safety, linebacker, running back are probably the 3 least valued positions. Like if we go with the Howie Roseman school of team building, you don't draft a safety, linebacker, or running back on day 1 or 2. You save it all till day 3. But every year we're seeing the Brian Branches or the Jade Barons or the Kyle Hamiltons, where there's these unicorn safeties, and there's about 1 or 2 of them every year that I think that would justify taking them high.
So I think I have 11 corners. So I had to pull up my top 100 here on my phone real quick.
I have 11. Dale, I'm impressed you could count that high when it was higher than 10.
That's me. I'm the one that can't count.
But so my bottom 3, and they wouldn't be in my top 75, these 3. So it goes 76 is Darian Porter, and 77 Jacob Parrish, and then 81 I got Kobe Bryant. So they're kind of my one. So if we're saying I've got maybe 8 in the top 75, and usually there's a lot more than that go to Jim's point from earlier on the corners. But like Kobe Bryant, him weighing at 180 was actually good. I know that's a concern for some people, but people were worried if he's going to be 170. And him being 180 because he's just a tenacious dude. So that helped him kind of be the one that made it 11 instead of 10 in the top 100 was his weight and everything he's done, Shrine Bowl and stuff like that. He's had a good process.
All right. Our boy Pork Chop here says, what do you guys think about the comparison from safety whose name I can't pronounce in South Carolina or Derwin James? If that comparison is true, would you consider him in the first round?
Yeah, talking about Nick Emanwari, who 10 RAS scores, so athletic freak, good tape, can do a little bit of everything. I go back and forth on who I have higher, him or Starks as my safety 1. They're 2 different players, but I like both of them. I would consider probably both of them at 17, depending what was on the board.
So some teams are very easy to predict who they draft. The Indianapolis Colts are among the easiest teams to predict because you're looking for the highest RAS score. And that's pretty much who the Colts will take. If Emanwari falls past the Colts, I would be shocked.
I think they're going to be high on Campbell, who tested well too at linebacker, though, and they need one of those.
Yeah, so depending upon whether or not you listen to Colts Twitter or we're talking to, let's say, more intelligent people on a podcast, I could make the argument for Campbell, and I think linebacker is a bigger impact position than safety. So I would think Jihad Campbell ahead of Emamori, but I would also be surprised if Jihad Campbell fell to where the Colts are picking.
I think Daniel Jeremiah had him going like 11th today or something to the Saints.
So between the Saints, the Cowboys need a linebacker.
See, Mel Kiper, this is not the same position, but Mel Kiper had Dart going to the Saints now, the quarterback out of Ole Miss. That surprised me.
Well, and Kiper knows things that the rest of us don't. But,
which, I mean, I want quarterbacks to go higher. That way more people drop down to us.
Me both. I want quarterbacks,
go ahead.
Running backs, I want tight ends to be drafted before my team picks.
Right.
Of course.
That's what I want. Let's see. Hold on. There it is. Now, I wouldn't be surprised. Now, I would be surprised about this, but what about Trent Brown at guard? I don't know how his injury was or how he's healing, and he came into camp fat and out of shape last year. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals go this route because, I mean, at this point, he's going to be veteran minimum.
I think if you're looking at a tackle to kick in or guard, it's one we talked about, and that's Jedrick Wills from the Browns because, it hasn't quite worked out at tackle lately. But the familiarity with Scott Peters, our new offensive line coach, he was with him when he had, some decent years when Callahan was still the O-line coach. So if that's a guy who wants to take the Mekhi Becton route and kick into guard, on a cheap 1-year prove-it deal and see if he can get back on the market like Becton did with the Eagles and then sign with the Chargers, I think that would be a guy.
Hey, somebody named the draft professor is in the chat now.
I figured out where that button was.
And now you can talk to everybody. Let's see here. Ken Diplin. Holland Pierce, a massive athletic tackle, Rhode Island. They draft him, start him at guard 6'7", 345.
So that's tall for a guard.
I think he was even 6'8", so I think like his official measurement was 6'8".
Yeah, how big our line would be with him and Mims.
Yeah, I've talked about adding him.
Well,
if he fell, he fell in that mock we did last Friday.
Oh, that's right.
Jeff.
Yes,
He fell to like the 6th round, and I was like, guys, I can't help it. I'm taking him here in the 6th. But I think he's a guy who could go in the 3rd. He's just a massive human. You wonder about his foot speed and, if he could stick at tackles, so maybe he does slide in, but 6'8" is so massive to do it. I wouldn't want to do that. But I think as a swing tackle, when you put an extra lineman in on short yardage and goal line situations, I think he could do that. So if he was there in like the 4th round, that's when I would have more interest in like a Holland Pierce. But there's just some, and if the Bengals stick to how much they love the size, they're going to love him.
Well, that's the thing. If his foot speed is an issue, then kick him in the guard. But
if he wasn't 6'8", though.
With that, well, how tall is Becton? He's 6'7", ain't he?
Yeah, he might have been 6'6", though. He might. I don't know. I'm telling you,
tall guard too.
I'm telling you, 2 inches can make a big difference, Jeff.
That's damn. I can't say it. Boom. I was leave it alone. I can't say it. Jim, what's your thoughts on that? Not the 2 inches. Show us on the rail now, Dale.
So I think there's volatility in that tier of tackles where Pierce is. So, there's a couple guys I know that are really high on Belton and Pierce, and they would say you take them in round 3. That's right, because there's not a lot of tackles. It's the same way there's not a lot of corners. I think you're going to need to take them in round 3 if you want them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this goes back to the whole trade up, trade down discussion from many minutes ago.
Right.
It's really cheap to move up into round 2 or 3. So, for example, Buffalo has no round 3. But Buffalo has 2 round 4s, 3 round 5s, and we still have a couple of 6s. We have 10 draft picks, and 10 guys aren't going to make the team.
Right.
So we're going to take those picks, and we're going to move up. So we're probably going to take a 4th round pick and move it up into round 3. And Brandon Beane tends to move around the board like that. So everybody's, okay, we gave up the pick for Xavier Worthy, right? Media was all over it, right?
Right.
Did you realize in that trade, Brandon Beane took a 6th round pick and moved it up into round 3?
Yeah.
There is some genius there when you're doing the trade up. If you have a lot of picks, look at the Eagles next year. The Eagles have they have a comp pick in rounds 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to like 10 or 11 picks this year.
Jeez.
Like,
we got
so
6.
if you have that many picks and your team is in the playoffs, you're going to be trading the picks to teams that don't have a lot of draft capital because you know that those guys aren't going to be able to make your team.
Right.
Well, and if you're wanting to be a playoff team and maybe you missed it the year before, you probably don't want to roster all 10 Cincinnati Bengals last year. That means you didn't do enough in free agency, even in the second, third, fourth tier of free agency, that you didn't improve your team enough that you had to roster 10 guys, one of them being Tanner McLaughlin, who never touched the field, even with injuries at tight end. It's just that's not a good way to go about it.
Right.
So I'd rather have a GM that moved around, but we don't even have one of those.
We don't have a GM. All right, Ken here. We already touched on safety, but I said, is there a linebacker / safety in this year's draft? We kind of touched on safety.
Number one guy would be Nick Emmanwori.
There you go.
And he's from South Carolina. So he's like a 230-pound safety. And he's probably going to go round 1, and he deserves to go that high. Trying to think of other linebacker safeties. The guy from Virginia.
Jonas Sanker.
Yes. And let's just call him a box safety. I don't want to call him a linebacker.
Yeah.
But he'll hit you. I'm looking like Dante Trade or anybody else in your mind there, Dale?
No, I think Sanker was a good one that you mentioned. Nobody's popping out off the top of my head. I can't remember how big Woodson is from Cal. I just think he's going to be a good player. Yeah.
I do have one more name for you. A safety where if he tackles you, you're going to know it. His name is Andreas Keaton, and he goes to Temple. It was funny, right? He followed our page. It was just out of the blue in like November. He followed our page. So we did some scouting reports on him, and it turned out we really like him.
He likes you because he follows you now.
Yeah. So the issue is that he went to Temple, and he was a transfer.
Yeah.
I don't remember where he played before Temple.
Smaller school, though. Yeah.
But if he's probably one of the better tackling safeties in the class. I believe that Wisconsin safety is that Hunter Wohler.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that would be another good one. But like there's what I think on average 16 safeties get drafted every year. So it's not a high priority position. So if you need a safety, you're probably going to be able to get an Andreas Keaton as an undrafted free agent. And he's going to be able to play special teams. Whether or not he can make the field is up to the defensive coordinator. But to me, what you want if you're undrafted is a path to the 53 and then see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And having those guys on the practice squad is never a bad idea. Same thing with linebacker because those are the core of your special teams. So when you get late round, you see those guys go, or the undrafted guys that get scooped up quickly. And one for the Bengals, like Shaka Hayward, who was on the practice squad for almost 2 years and then got a little bit of play against the Steelers in that last game and flashed a little bit. I still think he's got now a chance this year and going into his third year to make the 53. And I don't know. We'll see if we don't bring in any other linebackers or the draft don't fall our way. Maybe it's a guy who becomes a starter. It wouldn't shock me. Like I liked Shaka Hayward when he was coming out of Duke.
All right. Nobody too slurps said wants to know thoughts on Luther Burden and Golden. And do you think they could fall to the second round?
You want to take that one, Dale? Or you want me to?
I mean, you can. I think a lot of people are thinking Burden has the better chance now is all I'll say on it. I think Matthew Golden has definitely moved his stock up. And when he ran a 4.3, it even surprised the Texas coaches.
So
wow.
We were in.
They didn't know he's that fast?
No, and they had him on their team, and they thought, shit, we could have done more with this guy.
Right? I'm like, how did you not know he's that fast?
So I was sitting in Indianapolis at the Combine with Bill Carroll, Dale, who you podcasted with when you did the 3-hour deal with me.
3-hour podcast.
It was a 3-hour podcast. Yeah, it was a 3-hour mock draft. But so Bill and the group of us around, he just made himself a few million. Like that 10th of a second was a $1 million 40-yard dash.
Yeah.
So if Golden falls past pick 30, I think there's going to be a ride in Buffalo. So Golden is exactly what the Bills wide receiver room needs. So to me, he can't fall past 30.
You guys, maybe Bean can work some magic and say, here's a couple 5th rounders, something like that to move up a couple spots if he needs to.
Well, right. So the question is, how high do you move up? And like, we're still 4 weeks before the draft. I'm not ready to make those how high do I want him to move up as a fan? But I'm not giving up. Buffalo has 2 second-round picks. I'm not giving up either second to move up. I'll give up a 4th, but I'm not going to give up a day 2 pick to move up. It's not worth it. No player in this draft, from Buffalo's perspective, moves the needle to say we would be able to compete with the Cincinnatis and the KCs better. To me, for Buffalo, it's about get 4 or 5 guys, similar to what you're saying here. Mm-hmm. So use the round 1, the round 2 picks, and the 2 round 4 picks. Those 5 guys are the core of a team that's going to be competing for a few years. I wouldn't give up any of those picks.
Yeah. How about Burden? Because to me, I think maybe he has a chance, but I think it's almost tied to how high does Matthew Golden go? How high does Emeka Egbuka go? How high does even Tet McMillan go? Because those guys are all over the place in mock drafts.
Yeah. So Kansas City needs a receiver, right? You look at the Xavier Worthy situation. Rashee Rice is going to be suspended, I think, at the beginning of the season, right?
Who knows at this point?
Right. And then DeAndre Hopkins is left in free agency. So the Chiefs have a hole at receiver again. And I would have a hard time if T-Mac or Burden or Golden or Egbuka or Higgins are on the board, they would fall past Kansas City. And again, like, one of the draft professors is a Chiefs guy, and he's reminding everybody the Chiefs have invested 4 picks in offensive linemen in the last 2 years. He says maybe they go tackle, but he says it's not as big of a need as everybody says. Don't listen to the media. Look at what they've drafted. They knew that they can't extend these players because of their cap situation.
Right.
So they've drafted 2 years before they needed them.
So Robert here, he's got a suggestion for you. He said, so the Bengals trade 17 for 29 and round 4 and 5 pick a conditional pick for the Bills.
You're on the right track there, Robert. The Bills GM typically does not trade away future year draft capital. He's been on record in press conferences saying that. So Brandon Beane will mortgage this draft to go up and get a guy if he likes him, but he doesn't trade away future years draft capital.
All right, I want to get this other one I brought up. That's a good one. Hold on. Oh, yeah, that's Keith. So I'm a biased UK fan, but I think D-tackle Deion Walker and cornerback Maxwell Harrison would be good fits here. You don't think so? What's your thoughts?
So I think, Hairston's an awesome athlete. I think Hairston will probably be able to play in a lot of different schemes. I'm not high on Deontay Walker. So round 3, round 4. If you want Walker, he's value in round 4, but he's too risky in round 3.
Dale?
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I go back and forth because I could see taking the risk in round 3 because of what he was 2 years ago, but the pad level still scares me. And I go both ways too, from the thing saying he played with a broken back. On one hand, I go, man, that guy loves football to be doing that, and what a stud.
But he
to
broke
still
his back.
Be somewhat effective to be playing like that. But then I also go, oh shit, this guy is 340 pounds with back issues.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. And is he a better 3-4 defensive end, or is he a nose tackle? So
he doesn't play like a nose tackle at all. He would be a 3 tech if he was here. Number one, he has the size of a nose tackle, but he even plays, and his best, and I think we've talked about it briefly before, was I think he plays like a 3-4 like a 3-4 end for somebody. That's probably what he would be best at, or how he plays. He's definitely not going to be a size-wise. You think nose tackle? He's not that at all.
Right. So, you can't judge the player by his height and weight. You have to know more about what the player does well and what your scheme needs a specific position on the field to do. And I don't think Walker's going to be a scheme fit for every team.
All right.
Christopher's asking about Scorton. Oh, go ahead. You can get that one, but I want to get Christopher's after that.
All right, I get that. Ken says, who's the best return specialist in the draft?
Oh, God.
I don't know about the best, but Noel Williams from Cal is high on my wish list for Buffalo. And he returns kicks.
7 picks, too, wasn't it, last year that led NCAA?
Yeah. So Buffalo scouted Cal a lot. So one of the people that helps me, he literally follows the scouts and the people that report the scout visits on X. So every Saturday during college football season, if it's a credentialed scout visit, it has to be announced. So we know what schools Buffalo scouts are going to. And ironically, Cal, which is weird because Buffalo's typically sticks with Big Ten and SEC. So if they're scouting Cal and they're all the way out on the West Coast, that's a unique thing. So they're clearly watching Noel Williams because I think the next highest guy is at Teddy Buchanan.
And Woodson, I think, was a Cal guy, too, that I talked about earlier, the safety.
Yes. So maybe they were there watching Woodson.
Maybe all of them. Yeah, just that defense. Yeah, there's a few guys on there.
But if you have a corner that you like, you can also evaluate all the wide receivers that go against him, right? So meaning I think everybody, like Noel Williams is not a secret.
Yeah.
But if you know what that player's ability is and you want to see how a wide receiver stacks up against somebody that you like, that might be the best way to figure out if you like those wide receivers or not.
I'll mention a couple the return guys before we answer that one about Scorton. Mm-hmm. So like Tez Johnson, but he scares me as a receiver, but also he's an electric returner, but he's 154 pounds. And then a guy that I like a lot better than Tez as both a receiver and potentially as a return man, just because I think he'll stay healthy, is Jalen Noel. So the other guy, I like Jaden Higgins a lot too, but Jalen Noel is probably going to go second, maybe early third, but I think he could end up going second round. I mean, that guy, he plays so much bigger than his size. The way he goes up and attacks the football. And I mean, contested catch wise, he's so good. And he's 5'10", but he's built well too. Like, so he's almost 200 pounds at that height, where you got a Tez Johnson who's like 154, but he's a good returner, good vision as a return man. So he's one for that part of the return.
So Dale, do you have Billy Bowman as a safety or a slot?
I think I have him as a safety now. And he was impressive at the combine.
And he has some return chops, I believe, if I understand his background correctly. So Billy Bowman, like if the Bengals need a returner and you need a safety, you might be able to marry the two. And Billy Bowman, probably, I think Bowman, you might need to take him late round 3. I've seen a couple people with him in the top 100. But most people, I think, have him in round 4.
Yeah, I think he'll go in that mid to late round 3, but he could be there early round 4. Might just not work out for like the Bengals unless they're going to take him in the 3rd if they're that high on him. And then that one. Is Scorton Scourton. I'm sure I say his name wrong, but still a first round edge. I don't know. To be honest, when we did our mock draft yesterday, he fell to 49, and I said I'm taking him at this point. I'm not going to hesitate about that. I think he's a good pass rusher. I think he's a way better pass rusher than he showed this year. If you go back and watch his tape from 2 years ago when he was at Purdue, and I think he was playing at 280, and I think him weighing in at 260, whatever it was at the combine, tells you that he's going to be closer to that weight, and he's going to be more athletic. And he was a guy talked about as a top 10 prospect coming into this season for a reason. So I think he'll go in the first round, or do I think he's a first round prospect? Because I think he's a fringe first round prospect, combining both of these past 2 seasons that I've watched a lot of him. But and I think similar, he could go fringe first round, but he could fall into the second. It wouldn't surprise me either way.
So a lot of how I evaluate the draft for a player like Scourton is I look at the rankings of people who are evaluating and what the volatility is. So one of the guys that is a regular podcaster on my channel, he has Scourton as edge 2 with a top 10 grade. Like, he should not be there at pick 10. That's how high he has him. But then for every person I see that has Scourton in round 1, other people say he's round 3. And ironically, if you check the Draft Professor Twitter feed, Scourton was our subject today, asking people, where is he on your board? And you're going to see a lot of answers. You're going to see people that say he's a top 25 player, and you're going to see people that say, I'm not touching him until round 3.
Okay. We got about 5 minutes. I got to get the heck out of here because I have to go catch a plane. I'm going to try to get through some of these questions here. Do you think we address running back 2 early in the draft? If I love Shambo's Scatterboo is, I keep wanting to say Shambo. If Scatterboo is available at the 3rd, should we pull the trigger? I love him, but I don't know.
Jeff's like, yes.
No, I love him, but
I don't know. I think that's about where he's going to go, though. 3rd. I think I would feel best getting a guy in the 4th or the 5th. And I think I would rather take a Damian Martinez from Miami.
And I love the guy, but I'd rather get him.
I know. And I do too. I do too. I'm not I think he's a dog on the football field. But I just think where I would value one, already having Chase Brown and even having P. Ryan here, getting another guy in, I would take Damian Martinez. We'll just say 4th round instead of Scatterboo in the 3rd.
There you go. All right. Where do you
General running back philosophy. If you think you need a running back this round, wait around.
Wait around.
There you go. Where do you have Landon Jackson and Darius Alexander?
I think the draft community is sleeping on Landon Jackson. I think the NFL is going to be much higher on Landon Jackson than media is.
All right, Campbell.
I got 2nd round for both of them, but could either of those sneak into the back end of the 1st? Absolutely.
All right, Campbell at linebacker.
Yeah, he's a top 15 player on my board. If he was there at 17, I would not feel a bit bad if he was the pick.
And I'm not going to be able to get through everybody's comments. You guys are killing. We got 44 people on here. I love it. We get a couple more here. Stranger does not like Scatterboo. Terrible pass.
He is.
He is. I know he is.
He's
not wrong. I know he is, but I still want him. I like the guy. I like, me. I fall in love with guys. We don't ever draft them. Daryl Wynn. This draft is deep at running backs. I'm done. Mox getting Scatterboo in the 5th, and the kid from Virginia Tech in the 6th. Daryl Wynn. What's your thoughts on those guys?
Go ahead, Jim.
So I think, first of all, mock draft simulators are fun. Don't let that trick you into thinking that's how the regular draft goes.
Right.
That would be like, I tried to design a simulator that was going to be more random, but I'm just trying to make it more random because the draft is more random, not because I'm smarter than everybody else. I didn't like logging into the other simulators, and I could always predict who was going to be there from one round to the next.
Right. Real quick here, I gotta get off here. Real quick, I'll pull up your draft simulator so everybody can see what it is, and where can they find?
And I'll let him plug that, Jeff, because I know you're in a rush. So Bengals and Brews. I'll see you guys later.
Yeah. Thanks, Dale.
Dale, it's good to see you again.
See you, brother.
You.
So next time we'll do this. I have more time. We keep going. I just gotta go catch a plane.
No worries. So, so I created my own draft website called draftprofessor.com. You're seeing it here. It is a mock draft simulator. It's a little bit different. So one of the things that makes it different is that the picks of the fans control the player board. Mm-hmm. So the players you pick on this simulator, if you pick them for Cincinnati and you tell me who you picked, when I do a mock for any other team, I will send you a screenshot of who Cincinnati picked in the mock. And there's a really good chance that the players that you picked in your mock are going to Cincinnati when I do my Bills mock.
So you can move players
kind of
up
like
and down.
Bidding.
Yeah.
Say that again.
So you're moving players up and down by the mock drafts that the fans do.
Yes. So very dynamic in that regard. So while it may not be for everyone, because the player boards on this jump up and down. So you have to know which players you want, and you have to be able to go find them, because if you don't pick them, they move down.
Right.
So sometimes they're at the bottom of the draft board because everybody skips them.
Yeah.
So, but it's a much more dynamic experience on a mock draft simulator than you will probably see with the other sites. And I have a lot of fun with it. I podcast on the draft twice a day. So we've got a fantasy
draft content. Go to Draft Professor. He's got you covered.
Yeah. So like tonight, for example, we're doing fantasy. So like, how does the draft community rate a player? And then how should you rate them for your dynasty team? And then Parker, Blake, and Drew are actually going to be doing how to grade offensive linemen at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight.
So where can they follow? Put the channel out there, your Twitter, all that stuff, so everybody can follow you and find you.
Absolutely. At NFL Draft Fanatic, no I in Fanatic. And that's the same on X and YouTube. And those are the best two ways to find us. We do 32-team mock drafts every Friday. We've got a big one April 10th, 11th, and 12th. We're doing 32 teams, 7 rounds. And we've got fans from all 32 teams that are coming together and, helping us just create a mock draft like you haven't seen before. So
awesome. Well, Jim, Professor, I'm sorry I had to cut this short. We keep talking for a couple more hours. Next time I get you on, I won't have to go on vacation. So go make sure you guys go follow him. Like I said, he's a draft nut. He's going to be on 500 shows here in the next 3 weeks or 2 days or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Appreciate you,
Fred. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Dude. Take it easy. See ya.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Now people are asking, like, where are you going? I'm going on vacation. So this is the last show of the week. Scheduled. So if they sign Trey, Bagel Rick, where you at? I was waiting to hear from you in the comments. Tell me that we signed Trey. So that's what I'm doing. So just make sure you subscribe to the channel, because if they do sign Trey or they do something else, I'll go live. I'll just be on my phone or my wife's computer or something. I'll figure it out and make sure we do it. But thanks for watching. I've been live streaming on ZTV, YouTube, X, Facebook, Twitch. You can follow me on all of those, along with Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. And shout out to my wonderful sponsors. And I please highly recommend you guys go to these places, buy some stuff, and tell them I sent you. First of all, it's Pride Lawn and Landscaping. If you don't want to cut your grass anymore, get them to do it. You got your yard that's a mess. You want it cleaned up. You want the leaves gone, flower beds mulched. Get Priority Lawn and Landscaping to do. Flowers put in, shrubs, retaining wall, whatever. Think Priority Lawn and Landscaping. You can give them a call at 513-430-6114. That's 513-430-6114. You can also follow them on Facebook. And like I said, tell them I sent you. Also, shout out to T Properties. Quality housing for quality people. Check out the website at www.tpropertiesllc.com for all your rental property management needs and your rental needs. And the Westside Peeps, go check out Hail Mary's, your ticket to the game. Go there, watch a big-ass TV screen. They have beer specials, food trucks. It's an awesome place to watch games and just go hang out with your friends. Free parking, too. Again, Hail Mary's, your ticket to the game. They're right in the heart of Cheviot from a Westside Peeps. And also shout out to Meyer Windows and Doors. I got them in my house. I highly recommend you give me yours. Give them a call or check them out on the website at www.meyercincinnati.com for all your window and door needs. Guys, it's been fun. You guys are blowing the chat up. There's 436 people watching this right now. It was up to 456. You guys have been absolutely freaking awesome the last couple weeks. Make sure you hit the likes, subscribe, tell your friends about Sports Strawberry Ice. We got T. We got Jamar. We need Trey. We need at least one guard. Please, Bengals, one guard. I want 2. Give me Scherf. If Tevin Jenkins is okay, give me him too. That'd be great. You can go draft one later and go hit this draft and nail it. Let's go get Lombardi. Remember, Houday for life. And that's just sports, baby. See ya!
Weekend nights, the city roars. Tune in loud, turn up some more. Cincinnati show, it's time to play. Sports with strawberry ice today. 5:30 sharp, don't be late. CTV, the sports awaits. Strawberry ice, he's on the mic, energy, it's pure delight. Every touchdown, every goal. Feel the pulse, it's in your soul. Cincinnati heartbeats strong. Strawberry ice will lead the throng. Every touchdown, every goal. Feel the pulse that's in your soul. Cincinnati heartbeats strong. Strawberry ice will lead the throng. Feel the crowd, it's electric now. Shouting loud, they all know how. The CTV got what we crave. Sports with ice, it's waves and waves. Tigers strike and Bengals roar. Every game we want some more. It's pure delight.